Hey, ladies, welcome back. I'm glad you're here. Today, we're going to talk about something that is most commonly misunderstood. And my goal is to hopefully make it more simple and more freeing. So, today's topic of our wellness journey is all about nutrition. So, in the past, and you can tell me if you agree with this, we have been taught to track every bite and obsess over calories, read all the labels, and determine if food is good or bad. And honestly, it can feel a bit exhausting. Have you kind of had that experience over the last really few decades, ever since tracking became such a novelty thing because of our smartphones and we've tracked it all? And then just deciding that were we good today or bad today? And my experience is it's a bit exhausting. It didn't always prove to add value to my life, as far as I didn't necessarily lose weight by tracking. And when it really comes down to it, I could not imagine myself tracking all of my food as I got older. So, like, I don't see my grandmother sitting there trying to track her food in a calorie counter, or my mother or anyone like that. So I was wondering, like, how long am I going to keep tracking food? I came up, I didn't come up with it. I learned a different way to do it, and it really simplified things. So no more calorie counting, no more guilt, and we can support our hormones by just creating this whole healthy hormone plate. And we're going to use our hand to figure out portion sizes. So when you look at your hand, the palm of your hand is going to be a protein of serving. So if you check out how big that is, it's about 3 to 4 ounces of a meat protein or about a cup of yogurt. So that kind of helps you figure that out. Your thumb is your healthy fats, and your fist is your carbs and your veggies. So when you create a plate, you're really, when you're thinking of, is this too much food? Am I getting enough? Am I fueling my body? If you just use your hand, it's going to help dictate how much food is going to go on that plate without under eating, because that's very important. And then, of course, without overeating, which typically is our bigger concern. So this is more about fueling your body and not punishing it. And once you learn this approach, when you're not at home in your safe space where maybe you have measured food or you've counted something, now you're able to do this when you're away. And that's what I think is so great about that. So let's dive in to a little bit of the information. So macros are super important. Instead of just counting calories, when we look at the different food groups, we want to make sure that our body's running on enough macronutrients, which are our proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And in this midlife phase that we're in, balance actually matters more than math. So we have proved that over and over again. When I say balance matters more than math, we've been calorie counting, and that probably worked in our 20s and early 30s. And then all of a sudden it stopped working. And because our body is going through this hormone balancing shift, balance in our diet matters more than just the calories we're counting. So instead of obsessing over the number, we're going to use your hand as a guide. When we balance our plate, it's going to help balance our blood sugar. We will reduce cravings. It helps stabilize hormones like insulin, cortisol, leptin, ghrelin. So leptin is your hunger hormone that tells you you're full, like you're satiated. And a lot of times when we are eating a meal and all of a sudden we go, and we kind of sit back and we recline and we think, oh, we're just gearing up for serving two or going for seconds. It's actually our body's physical response to, you are full. Ghrelin is another metabolic hormone, and ghrelin is your hunger hormone. Your hunger hormone should kick in and give you a growl when your body is physically hungry. So when we're not getting those things, it's a simple meaning that our blood sugar is not balanced, our insulin's not balanced, and our body's not telling us what it needs. So when we look at this chart that I created, this protein equals POM, why that's important is protein should be the priority of our diet because it helps build and preserve lean muscle mass. And as we get older, our body naturally loses its muscle mass. Muscle mass isn't just important because it helps us feel strong or look strong. As we get older, it's going to help us have good posture so we're not hunched. Help support our big old noggin because our head actually weighs a lot. And if we don't have the strength to hold our head up, our head pulls our shoulders forward. But more importantly than those things, it helps us prevent from falling. It helps keep us moving and active. It helps us, I'm going to be very blunt, to get off the toilet by ourselves as we get older. So protein isn't just about physique and looking great. It's about being able to support ourselves as we get older. Protein is underrated. It also supports and balances blood sugar. And great examples, and feel free to list some outside of meat. We know chicken, salmon, eggs, Greek yogurt, beef. I discovered pumpkin seeds have lots of good protein in them. So if you know of a protein source, you can unmute, say it out loud, or drop it in the comments. Protein is super important. Okay, our thumb, or how I usually measure it, is like this. So like if it fills this space, that's my healthy fat. So like a tablespoon of butter, a tablespoon of olive oil. I like avocados. So this would be, if I had 2 of this, that would be a half of avocado. So fat supports the production, hormone production, and your brain health. So we need healthy fats. It helps us absorb fat soluble vitamins. And then again, this is about the size of it. And I'm going to give you a more clear direction towards that in just a little bit, as far as healthy fats and what we can be consuming. Carbs is your fist. Carbs get such a bad rap. Everyone says low carb, low carb. And that is a smart route to go, because sometimes we're not eating the right carbs. Or, I mean, I hate to say good or bad, but there are unhealthy carbs that we can gravitate to because of cravings. Carbs are important because they help with our energy, and they help with mood, and they also help with our thyroid health. When I say right carbs, and I really don't like to say right or wrong carbs, we want our carbs to be fiber rich. Fiber rich carbs help slow digestion, so we feel full longer, which will help us get through like the afternoon crash when we're just thinking we're hungry, but we're not really hungry. If you're full, a lot of times you won't begin to think you're hungry. And we want to aim for another fist size. So sweet potatoes, quinoa, berries. We can still have sweets, but berries, lentils, those would be great carbs to prioritize. And then veggies. Veggies play a role in our gut health. They help estrogen detox, the excess of estrogen, and they help us feel full longer. And we want to fill a big portion of our plate with colorful veggies. When all else fails, choose colorful. Spinach, broccoli, bell peppers, zucchini, things that you enjoy. And then, of course, always hydrate. The goal is changing for us ladies that are getting a little bit older. We don't need to track every calorie. However, tracking is data. If you have never tracked, I encourage you to track for 4 or 5 days. If you're wondering how much food you're eating, we have to track it. And then after 4 or 5 days, you can assess. Like, you're going to know, holy moly, I ate 3,000 calories today. Or the extreme opposite, I only ate 925 calories. And that lower end is not enough. So if you have never tracked, I do encourage it, just because it becomes data. And you want to eat at least 1,200 calories. At least. It's really closer to 1,800 to 2,000 calories. And I know it's going to depend on everyone's composition. More women our age end up under eating than overeating. Under eating creates stress on the body. Thus, it dysregulates your cortisol, and we hang on to belly fat. So stop fearing carbs, especially the whole food kind. We want to avoid low fat diet products, because sometimes low fat can spike insulin and create cravings. And think of it this way: instead of restriction, think of rhythmic eating that supports your hormones. So when your body tells you it's hungry, eat. Are any of you intermittent fasting? Are you familiar with that?
I have in the past.
Have in the past. Okay. So intermittent fasting, it can be good or bad. My caveat to this is always, if intermittent fasting is working for you, keep doing it. Okay. Intermittent fasting does not have to be all or nothing. Intermittent fasting during menopause can create stress on the body. The biggest thing about intermittent fasting and why it works so well is it gives your digestion tract an opportunity to rest. So you completely clean out your digestive system, which is nice to give your body a rest. However, if we're not eating when we're hungry, because it's not within our 8-hour window or our 10-hour window, we create stress on the body, which dysregulates our cortisol. So you can be doing a really good thing, but then having it bang heads against the thing that you're actually wanting to work. Does that make sense what I said? Okay, this whole thing is about listening to your body. So the idea of this rhythmic eating means we're listening to our body's rhythms. We're listening for hunger growls. We're listening for that full sigh to come into play to where and we know we're full, and then we stop eating. So our sample plate over here, I like this little diagram. Feel like it nails it to a T. With this diagram, we're going to shift our mindset around a little bit. Hopefully, we're not so much about eating to be good. Okay. The idea of a cheat meal, we probably just need to let that go. Because when we cheat on something, it kind of gets in our mindset like that you're being bad, right? Cheating's bad. So choose not to cheat, but choose what you're going to eat. So when you are presented with wedding cake because you're going to your nephew's wedding, which is what I did a few weeks ago, I'm going to choose to eat the wedding cake. I'll never go to my nephew's wedding again. That's a one and done. I'm not going to restrict during that moment, but I'm also not going to say I'm cheating myself either, because cheating's wrong. And I didn't do anything wrong by eating wedding cake. By the way, it wasn't that great. So I didn't really I didn't go all out on it. So we don't want to eat to be good. We want to shift to eat to feel good. Back in the day, no lie, wedding cake would have been an all-out binge fest. Instead of one piece, I would have had 3. I would have asked how many people didn't show up that were on that RSVP list to make sure that I wasn't overeating someone's extra cake. But that never made me feel good. When we get more in tune to that, instead of being good and feeling good, we just make better decisions. Think of it this way. Focus on how you can add in things to your diet to support your healing journey compared to what can you cut out. So you flip the script instead of, okay, what can I get rid of so I can be healthy? Think of it this way. What can I add in to be healthy? Is it more carbs? Is it more fiber? Is it another serving of protein? Is it whole milk in your coffee or half and half in your coffee instead of a creamer that has lots of extra things like sugar? So when you think of, I'm adding this to my diet, then you don't feel like you're living in restriction. Trust your body. It's trying to tell you things. And then think, what would fuel my body the best at this time? So like in the morning, what would fuel your body the best? Give you the most energy to get through lunch. Or sometimes we're hungry before we go to bed. Like we get a stomach growl, we're hungry before we go to bed. What would fuel your body best before you put your head on the pillow? I know if I eat sugar late in the evening, like I used to eat ice cream before I go to bed, it would kind of give me a buzz. Like I would have a sugar rush. I'd have all this extra sugar. So it took me a longer time to fall asleep. So if I switch that to then cheese and peanut butter, or what was the other thing that I would eat? Oh, well, I don't do this anymore. I used to eat some nut, like a handful of nuts before I go to bed. Made brushing my teeth like a pain. It just wasn't worth it. So I switched back to cheese. But finding something that I could add in that would benefit my body and not give my body this sugar rush. All of those things are helpful. So I'm going to send this piece in an email. Where's the other thing that I wanted to send? Okay. New share. Oh, why am I not able to share? I really want to share this image with you. And for some reason, oh, there it is. Okay. Are you seeing a list of proteins, fats, and carbs?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Jenny, I did it right. So lots of different options for protein. When we think of our plate, we want to make sure that we have 4 to 5 servings of protein a day. So that can seem like a lot when we're looking at our palm. We need 5 palms of the foods in the blue. So sometimes you have to get a little creative. I love eggs. So eggs usually are how I start off my morning. But then it's like, I don't want a hamburger patty at lunch, just doesn't seem right to me, or a steak for lunch. Just so you kind of got to get a little bit creative. I use protein powders to fill in the gaps. So by the end of the day, if I'm not getting my 4 to 5 servings of protein, I always have protein handy. It's not something I usually consume every day. It's on those days that fills in gaps. And I put a little note beside protein powder without seed oils. Seed oils under the fat column down towards the bottom right here. Seed oils can be hormone disrupting. It's how they're processed. Now you'll hear both sides of the story that seed oils are great and seed oils are fine. Seed oils, I think, are they a bit there's one good thing about seed oils, and now I can't remember what it is, but they can be very inflammatory. Seed oils were originally created to lubricate big machinery. They were never meant to be consumed. But once we bleached out the ugly color in it, then all of a sudden we were just like, oh, we can add these to food and it's cheap. That's how seed oils became part of our diet. It was way back in the like 1920s, 30s, that became popular. But seed oils can be very hormone disrupting. How they're processed, they release a toxin into our body when we consume them. So we want to avoid those. Healthy fats, and there's plenty of them, are up above. So that thumb would be your healthy fat. And then carbs below. Now, carbs can get a bad rap, especially fruit, because it has sugar in it, and sugar is bad. But natural sugar is fine. We don't want to live on fruits alone, because that too can be create some digestion issues. But sugar found in fruits is fine. If you do choose to read labels, which I read labels for 2 reasons. 1 for oils and 2 for sugar. When it says added sugar, that's when I avoid it. Because things like fruit, they're already sweet. We don't need to add sugar to it. What was another one? Like dried fruit. If you ever read a label around like dried cranberries, or I do happen to love dried mangoes, or at least I did until I read the sugar content. Those things are already sweet, but to find out that there's 36 grams of added sugar to my dried mangoes, well, I don't eat them anymore. We don't need to be adding sugar. There's plenty. So those are the 2 things I watch for. Even when we have we see research around, well, you'll have an insulin spike if you eat a white potato compared to a sweet potato. Keep digging in your research. You'll find that both of them can do that. But those spikes are different when it's natural sugar compared to synthetic. Also, if it says sugar-free and it's sweet, double check your label for things like the sugar substitutes, because they're adding something to make it sweet. Now, that's not everything. Some things are naturally sweetened, but it has to have it on the label. Legally, everything in your product now has to be on the label, including added sugars and synthetics, legally. Hopefully everybody's abiding by that. But that's kind of the gist of nutrition. I will send the palm thing out, and then this list of healthy foods. If you stick just to this, your diet is going to clean up and you'll feel so much better. As far as servings, protein would be 4 to 5 servings of protein. Like if all else fails and you're hungry, go eat protein. Fats can be 5 to 6. And we're not going to count the fat that is in our protein. So I'm going to give you an example. If you eat a hamburger and your hamburger obviously is going to have some fat in it, do not count the fat in the hamburger. You can count the butter that you might have fried it in, but you're not going to count fat in the foods. Otherwise, what you're going to end up doing is tracking, and we're trying to avoid some of that. Carbs, two carbs. So if you end up having, let's see, rice, which this would be a lot of rice, a fistful of rice, that would be a lot of rice, but you have two. So it's more of a half a cup of rice or a whole cup of rice for the day. So we just have to think like our fist is a measuring device. And if you want that broken down farther, would that help if I broke it down to like, is it 3/4 cup of cottage cheese? Is it a half a cup of rice? Would that be more helpful if I created that? No? You're muted, Jenny. Let me see if I can help you unmute.
Got it. There.
Okay.
For me, the simple is better.
Okay. So we'll leave it like that unless I get a request for it, and then I'll do that. Madison, are you good? Okay. From here, I'm going to stop recording and we're just going to open it up to Q&A. Well, I say I'm going to stop recording. There it is.